Hi everyone, I'm back, and as promised, I'm here to tell you a bit about book club and about some of the books I've been reading going into the weekend. So let's get started. I started book club as an excuse to keep in touch with a group of really amazing designers and women that I know from finance. And so every couple of weeks we meet over Zoom and talk about the chosen book, and then when we're finished with that book, we rotate through who gets to choose the next one. So the first book that I chose for book club is called Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This was on a number of different lists for great books for book clubs, and after reading it I can see why. It wasn't very difficult to get through, lots of really interesting characters, and it touched upon so many different themes. It talked about motherhood, and it talked about family, it talked about the class divide and racism. I thought it was really well written, and in book club it sort of got mixed reviews. Even though I loved it, some people didn't like it as much, but even if they didn't like it, it made for a really good discussion because there were so many different characters and different plot lines that people disagreed on. So definitely recommended for just your own reading or for a book club if you're going to start one. If you're looking for a bit of an easy read, I also started reading Everything I Never Told You, which is Celeste Ng's earlier book. This one's a little bit different. It's a bit more of a thriller. For example, the opening line is, "Lydia is dead, but they don't know this yet." And it's set in 1970s small town Ohio. Because of this backdrop, it focuses a bit more on sexism. It focuses on the minority experience and racism, and how these early experiences have colored the characters' interpretations of later things that happen to them and how they raise their children. So I'm only part of the way through, but I'm really enjoying this one so far. Another book that is a definite page turner is called Before the Fall by Noah Hawley. And this is also a thriller. At the very beginning, a small private plane crashes as it's leaving the Hamptons on Long Island, and the only survivors are an adult male who saves a young boy. And as I said, it's a real page turner. You want to know what happens next. The timeline isn't chronological, so you always want to know who these characters are and what has actually happened. But at the same time, it also touches a bit on a philosophical nature of what makes a life, what makes a person. And I found it really interesting, so definitely recommended. So if you're looking to read something that's a bit more involved, I recently had The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt recommended to me. And as I often do when someone recommends a book, I do a little bit of reading online, and a lot of people had also recommended her first book, which is called The Secret History. So I read this one first, even though they don't have anything to do with each other. Normally I'm quite a fast reader, but I felt like each sentence and each paragraph was packed with so much, and it was so beautifully written that it did take me a bit longer to get through these. The Secret History is about a young man that is born into a poor family in California and ends up going to a small college in New England. And he sees this group of students that have this sort of mythical quality about them, and he inserts himself into this group who study under a Greek professor. And it's a really interesting, strange story, and it almost has a Greek tragedy feel to it. So I really enjoyed this. And then I read The Goldfinch, which is completely different, also really beautifully written. It is an epic novel that spans an entire lifetime. And it starts with a 13-year-old boy who's being brought up by a single mother. And at the very start of the story, there is an explosion in a museum that they're in, and his mother passes away, and he takes this painting, The Goldfinch. And it's a really interesting read about this boy becoming a man, and how this tragedy and this painting color all of his experiences and his entire life. So I've heard they made it into a movie with very mixed reviews, so I haven't seen the movie, but I definitely recommend the book. Now, if you're not much of a reader, or if maybe you don't have the energy or patience to dig into a big novel right now, I'm sure that in sort of the before times, at one point or another, you've been to a museum exhibition, and at the end of it, you thought, oh, there's this beautiful coffee table book that I have to get. And then you bring it home and there's this massive tome that just sits on your shelf collecting dust. And so I think right now is a great time to dig out these beautiful coffee table books, have a glass of wine and relax and sort of re-experience some of the exhibitions that we've seen. And so I've got Alexander McQueen's Savage Beauty that was at the V&A a couple of years ago, which was such a beautiful exhibition. And, this book just has so many of his works of art and different fashion pieces that he put together. So I'm really looking forward to sort of dusting this off and having another look. And then the other one that I brought out is called Avid, The Timeless Home. And I got this one at a talk that was at Christie's a while back. And Avid is an interior designer who, even though the brand that I run obviously is all very minimalist and clean lines, you can see that his design ethos is very ornate and really involved. But I just love seeing the juxtaposition of color and these homes and these buildings, and how he has put together different patterns in such a unique way. And so I just thought this was an absolutely beautiful book. And so I'm looking forward to paging through this again. The next book that we're reading in book club is called The Air You Breathe, and it's a story of two friends growing up in Brazil. So it touches on themes of female friendship and rivalry, and how that friendship and relationship grows and develops over many decades. So I'm really looking forward to reading that and discussing it in book club. Please feel free to follow along with us. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and that you got some ideas about what to read, whether that is a long epic novel or just pulling one of these beautiful coffee table books off the shelf and having a page through this weekend. Please let us know on social media or email what you think of our recommendations, and if you've got some recommendations of your own about what we should read in book club, we'd love to hear it. And until then, have a lovely weekend, and thanks for watching.